motorcyclists. So that might explain why they didn't see us. An interesting note is a motorcyclist who is driving their car or truck will almost never cut off another motorcyclist because motorcyclists are important to them. They see the motorcyclist. That's the part of our brain. You bought a red Volkswagen for your first car. All of a sudden, you see red Volkswagens everywhere, but you didn't really notice them before. That's the thought process that I'm trying to explain. So what's the outcome of that? Your instructor at your 2-day course probably recommended that when you're in city traffic on a motorcycle, ride as if you were invisible. Anticipate by looking far down the road that the approaching vehicle might cut you off. Where can I go? Am I going slow enough? Who's following me? Have a look in the mirror. So it's playing a mental game, which is as important, I believe, as your physical dexterity skills of being able to shift gears and work the clutch smoothly and get on the brakes. The other equally important or more important component of riding is the traffic strategies and ideas and eyes up to see what's going on. So I didn't see you. The other people that are interviewed who say, yes, you know what? I saw the bike, but I thought I could make it across the intersection before they got there. And that gets back to the car driver can't judge the approach speed of a motorcycle as easily as a bigger vehicle. So I think you have to anticipate that. Yes, the person that took the right of way away from you will be charged with failing to yield. But what good is that for you if you drag your leg into court? Yes, Your Honor, I was in the right. That nut cut me off. It's too late then. So we have to be proactive riders, not just reactive riders, and check and see what's going on in traffic as you approach the intersection. Now, I'll tell you what I do. And I got this system, I kind of made it up, but I read a lot, and a great author, you may want to look into it, an American instructor named David Huff, and it's spelt rough with an H. David Huff. Fantastic book, Motorcycle Experience. And he talks about what to do in intersections. And I've adapted some of his ideas. This is what I do. I'm riding along, maybe I'm doing 65. My head is up. I look in my mirror now and then, get an idea of my circle of safety around me. I don't want to ride right beside another vehicle. I don't follow too close, and I don't want someone following me too close. And we'll give you some tips how to avoid all those things. I'm doing 65, and I look up and I see quite a ways down the road, signal lights. There's an intersection coming up. I do it almost automatically now, unconsciously. 2 fingers of my right hand come out, and I breathe on my front brake. Now, motorcycle safety instructors, they're going to argue with me. They say all 4 fingers on the lever. Well, first of all, that curriculum was written in 1974 by the Ottawa Safety Council. And in 1974, disc brakes were just coming out, but there was still a lot of street bikes with a drum brake. You needed 4 fingers to bring that thing down. Hydraulic brakes, whether you use 2, 3, you lift your right foot up to put the brake on, I don't care, but I personally use 2 fingers because I'm a dirt biker. I want 2 fingers around the grip and 2 exposed to operate the clutch and the brake so I can still hang on. So I ride street the same way. Let's just say breathe on the brake. We won't count fingers because that'll upset people. As I breathe on the brake, and I'm not hammering it on, I just breathe on it a little. What have I accomplished? Well, one thing, I've scrubbed off some speed because I've got the brake on. I'm going from 65 down to around 50. So now I've got more room and time to stop quickly if I need to. The other thing I've accomplished is the brake light comes on. That may tell people who are following me, hey, that guy's up there. What's he doing? Why is the brake light on? The goal is they slow down a little. Often they will change lanes because they're impatient. They've got to get somewhere 6 seconds faster than you. The other thing I've done, and I'll just jump on the Triumph to illustrate it, anytime you decelerate, either by throttle chop, downshift, or brake, the front suspension dives down a little bit. Just smile and nod. Otherwise, it'll take all day. With the brake on and the front suspension diving down a little, there's a weight transfer. So if you were holding a coffee, now it's spilling forward. That weight transferred forward, which squishes the front suspension down, is putting more weight on the contact patch of the front tire. That's why all vehicles, even when maybe a more economical car would come with front disc brakes, drum rear brakes, because the least important brake on a vehicle is the rear brake. I'm sure you've heard this. The front brake's worth up to 70% of your braking power. It's often a lot more. So I've achieved that. I've scrubbed off speed. I've got a brake light on, and I've loaded the front wheel a little. And I'm talking about just breathing on the brake. Doesn't take a lot. Now, the reason I do that, and an advantage that I give myself, is that if a car turns left in front of me, I'm 1 second faster than you are at getting on to the rest of the brake because my finger's already there. My brain, although slower at 62, is already into braking mode. I'm thinking about it. I've already loaded the suspension. The contact patch on my front tire is squished out a little. And with that weight on the front tire, I'm going to get a lot better braking traction. So I can get on the brakes faster and harder because I'm already on them. And that reduces the space I need to come to a quick stop. So that's what I do, is breathe on the brake to get rid of some speed on the approach to the intersection. Now, once I go through the intersection, if everything's fine, I take a quick look in my mirror to make sure I haven't impeded traffic behind me too much, because I don't want them following me too close. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, put a question in the chat. We'll explain it better later. But the whole concept is develop riding habits that are not only safe, but are comfortable for you, so that every intersection I go through, if I see vehicles that might turn left or run a red light even, I'm breathing on my front brake to prepare for that quick stop that I might need. And that's the difference between doing kunk or taking further distance to stop. A couple of other things you could do. If it's a 2-lane road, you're safer in the curbside or rightmost lane. Technically, it's called the driving lane. The left lane is supposed to be just for passing, but people use it as, well, that's the fastest lane of travel. So if you're in the leftmost lane, you're a lot closer to that bumper of whatever's cutting you off. So I prefer to drive through the intersection, if possible, in the slower lane of traffic because I'm further away. So if I'm changing lanes before getting to the intersection, I've got to do that safely. I want to make sure that there's nobody beside me. I turn into the right lane, make a safe lane change. My headlight just moved diagonally across the field of vision of the approaching driver. That alone may prevent them cutting you off. Now, some believe it or not, some safety experts say the following. On the approach to an intersection, flash your high beams on and off. That will let approaching drivers know that you're there. I disagree with that completely. What could the high beam going on and off mean? A multitude of things. You go ahead. I'm being polite. Go ahead. I'm flashing the light. It could mean you stay there. I'm going. It could mean there's a radar trap. I saw police back there. So flashing the light might mean slow down. My point being, we don't know what that means. I don't flash the headlight. And if people do it to you, don't interpret that. Try to get through that intersection safely. It could mean your lights weren't on. Who knows? The other thing some safety advocates, or some people advocate, is beep the horn. So you're riding along and meet me before every intersection. That's ludicrous. Imagine the windows are up. Most cabin areas of a vehicle today are pretty soundproof compared to my first car that I could see the floor through, the road through the floor. The tunes are on. You can see the back windows going, gong, gong, gong. They're not going to hear meet, the Roadrunner beep of most of our motorcycles. So I think that's ridiculous to say beep the horn as a caution of here I come through the intersection. It's almost a dinner bell. I wouldn't do it. What we can do to extra arm ourselves on approaching that intersection is watch the vehicle that's approaching. No vehicle, in my experience, and even driving, think of it. A vehicle that's going to cut you off doesn't go perfectly straight and then turn a 90-degree angle and hit you. Something changes. There's a deviation in the vehicle that's approaching. For instance, you see the hood drop on the car or truck approaching you. Why are they decelerating? Are they setting up to take the turn that's going to cut you off? Doesn't make sense. If it's a green light, why are they braking? So alarm bells should go off in your helmet. Other drivers who want to keep up their speed in the turn will pull a little bit to the outside of their lane and then cut across. Some cars will meander closer to the center line and then turn. My point is there's some change where those front tires of that vehicle are going. They change from straight to something else. That's what I'm looking for. I don't care if they have their turn signal on. They could have bought the truck. The turn signal was on when they bought it, and it's still on. Don't trust turn signals. Sometimes people use them. Sometimes people leave them on. Very dangerous to trust your life for a little flashy thing. It's the tires of that vehicle. Are they turning? Are they coming towards me? That's what's relevant to me. So that's a couple of tips for why people cut us off. So you can arm yourself with that ride as if you're invisible. They're not out trying to kill you, although that's the outcome sometimes. They're nice people just going home from work or to work or at work, and they didn't see you. So you drop the speed, move to the right, and really watch what people are doing around you. Very good. Now, excuse me for 1 second. I'm going to grab a quick drink of water. If you have a BMW, a stock one, there's a perfect water bottle. The Germans are very smart. You shouldn't ride around with it there, but when we're teaching, it's awesome. Excuse me. Okay, so the person turning left, we think we beat that to death. Number 3 is being hit from behind. That surprised me when I graphed all the statistics from that 20 years of collisions in Metro Toronto. I was shocked that that many people were killed from being hit from behind. So the scenario is